catastrophic Category 4 storm. Hurricane Ida nearing landfall in coastal Louisiana. The worst conditions here hitting portions of southern Louisiana, including the city of New Orleans here at this hour. Live team coverage, including a meteorologist Q&A coming your way here on Tracking the Tropics. Hey there, folks. JB Buno here with you live in your hurricane headquarters in Tampa, Florida. But we're going to be speaking a whole lot here about coastal Louisiana here. We are live here on a lot of different apps, websites, social media platforms, where we're going to be taking your questions out of the Facebook Live comment section. For folks in Louisiana, we really want to help you out here and let you know where the worst of the storm is at this very moment. You can use any of the hashtags here on your screen. We have meteorologist Amanda Holly here above me, here on the left side of your screen. You can use hashtag Hey Amanda for her. We have Jacob Lanier joining us from WJTV in Mississippi, hashtag Hey Jacob for him. But we're going to start here with Jack Royer joining us in New Orleans, Louisiana. Jacob Lanier is going to be joining us here in just a moment. Let's get to Jack Royer joining us there on the ground in New Orleans. Jack, we were just looking here at your shot a moment ago, and it looks like conditions really starting to worsen there in Louisiana.
Yeah, JB, you're right. And what you saw a moment ago, those sheets of rain, has kind of been what we're dealing with right now. It's in and out, I would call it. I mean, look at this hotel. The awnings here are blowing, not quite as bad as they were a second ago. Obviously, it's not raining right now. If you've ever been in the middle of a hurricane, you know that things change very rapidly. But you said it, conditions are starting to worsen slowly. A moment ago, just dumping rain. We expect that obviously to continue as this Category 4 gets closer. We've talked to a lot of people who say they just want to ride this thing out. They're going to stay put. You can see people walking around on the street. Down here at this hotel, a moment ago, we watched as a guy was installing floodgates on the door. A little late, perhaps, to get that done, but everybody's doing what they can to make sure that they're as prepared as they can be. And Will, let's show, if we can, that American flag up here. My photojournalist partner, Will Raines, and I were just speculating about what this storm could do to the area, and we noticed this American flag whipping in the wind, and thought that might have a long day ahead, that high atop a building near the French Quarter. To give you an idea of where we are, we're on Carondelet Street. Canal, for folks familiar with New Orleans, is the next light up behind the one that's behind me. You can see right now the wind is starting to pick up again. The rain is starting to pick up again behind us, and so the conditions are worsening, but let's look right here. People are just walking around in the street still today. Some people have said, look, I'm born and raised here. This is old hat to me. Others say I survived Katrina, I'll survive this. We should tell you that leaders here have increased confidence in the levee system and the pump system. This morning, New Orleans leaders saying 96 of the city's 99 pumps are working should water, obviously it will, but should standing water flooding occur in these areas where there are flash flood watches in effect until, I believe, Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So there's concern about some of the possibilities with this storm, but there's great confidence, too, in both the levee system and in the pumping system. We should note this is obviously, you've probably mentioned, the 16-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina making landfall. It's also, oddly enough, the third time a major hurricane has made landfall here. Isaac in 2012, Ida will become the number 3 storm to hit on August 29th. So, JB, you see the conditions here, just people kind of hunkered down, waiting wherever they can to feel safe, to be safe, and we sure pray and hope that everybody is.
Hey Jack, this is meteorologist Amanda Holly here in Tampa, Florida, and just kind of watching the people behind you, I'm a little bit in shock that people just, out and about walking their dog. I mean, when that first ban just came through, we saw it a few minutes ago. I mean, did anybody react to that one? Do they know that it's going to get worse as the day goes on?
I don't know how to answer if they know how bad it's going to be. I think that people here who are natives that we've talked to, people born and raised, are telling us, they're kind of used to it. But I mean, look, let's show people right here are trying to get their stuff to cars. They're checking out of hotels. They've got coolers. But I mean, to our right, Will, look, I mean, just another day for some folks who don't feel too worried about it. Even as rain horizontally hits me in the back here on Carondelet Street, I saw some people start to rush in out of the way to get out of the way, but look at the wind, look at the stuff. We've got no major debris or anything, but look at just what this wind is doing. You can see stuff starting to fly down the street. So conditions are worsening in the sense that the wind is getting stronger. We're starting to feel that hurricane level wind that is so associated with a storm like this. So it's interesting. You note how interesting it is that some folks were reacting and others kind of aren't. That's what we've seen a lot of here is people had to decide if they're staying, they're just going to hunker down and stay.
Jack Royer, folks, joining us here from New Orleans, Louisiana. Jack, hey, stay safe out there. We're going to have more reporters here on the ground in Louisiana joining us here on Tracking the Tropics. But from all of our commenters and all the viewers that are joining us here in the Facebook Live comment section, we've got a lot of comments coming in for you, Jack, telling you, stay safe out there in New Orleans.
Thanks, guys. Good luck to you. We'll keep you posted.
And we're also here with Jacob Lanier, WJTV meteorologist, joining us from Mississippi. He's standing by here for a live Q&A. Again, use any of the hashtags here on your screen, folks, and we can get to your questions here out of the Facebook Live comment section. But let's bring in Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly, who's standing by here, talking about the latest here as far as the Category 4 storm that we're looking at nearing a landfall event here in coastal Louisiana. Amanda.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is, just a very sad situation for the coastline of Louisiana. Maximum winds sustained at this point at 150 miles per hour. We are going to maybe see this increase just a little bit before it makes landfall. It's not that far away, though. And landfall, you have to remember, it is when the center of the eye moves ashore. So even when they claim landfall, National Hurricane Center calls it, the worst of the weather is actually going to be well on shore at that point. And it is only about 20 miles away from the worst of the winds, the strongest winds in the eye, really going to be making its way ashore. So moving northwest at 14 miles per hour, we're getting hourly updates from the National Hurricane Center, so we should get another one within 19 minutes. Hurricane hunters are still flying into and out of the storm, so we're still getting those updates. I will note that the maximum winds have been at 150 miles per hour for several hours now. However, the pressure has dropped. We use the pressure to measure the strength of the storm as well. It's almost a better indicator of how strong the storm is. And the pressure has been dropping over the past couple of hours. And usually we see a pressure drop precede an increase in the winds. So we'll see. I mean, at this point, it really doesn't make a difference. 150 mile per hour winds, 155 mile per hour winds. It's really not that big of a difference. But we have the radars ready to go. This is actually New Orleans radar on your screen. So that's a great tool for us to be able to see the eye. You can see on the very bottom of your screen there where those kind of white lines are. Those are actually lightning strikes in that eye. That's probably where the strongest winds are occurring at this point with Ida, and again, that is about 20 to 30 miles offshore. Some lightning in the eye also can indicate strengthening as well, so we're going to watch what happens at the 11 a.m. advisory. But again, the strongest winds just offshore in that eye wall. The gusts have been well over 100 miles per hour in some of the buoy reporting locations within the past several hours, and you could see, if you can see my mouse on the screen there, in this band right here, this is almost an outer eye wall starting to form, and there's going to be some really strong gusts within that as well. So just walking you through the latest track of Hurricane Ida from the National Hurricane Center. We actually got an intermediate track. They rarely do this, but they updated the track at 8 a.m. this morning, and they actually increased the wind speeds to at 155 miles per hour at landfall. So it is going to move off to the west of New Orleans. I do want to note that. And this system is much smaller than Hurricane Katrina was. So it will be interesting to see what kind of wind speeds the New Orleans area actually gets. This is going to continue to move off to the north, making its way through portions of Mississippi toward Jackson, Mississippi. And you guys are going to be on the eastern side of the storm here for much of the state. And that means you're going to see a lot of that rain. You're going to see a lot of that wind kind of moving on shore as well. And I want to bring in Jacob because you're going to see those impacts there. And what kind of things are you looking at in your specific area?
Well, really, it's the power outages have become a concern. The forecast track, they're taking landfall winds to 155 miles per hour. That's 2 miles per hour shy of a Category 5 strength. And it's probably going to cross the state line from Louisiana into South Mississippi around midnight and early Monday morning. Possibly is still a Category 1 hurricane. And so that means we're going to see sustained hurricane force winds down near Natchez, Mississippi, Macomb, Mississippi. And we could see widespread power outages that last for several days down there. And for a lot of the folks here in Central and South Mississippi, the last time that we saw widespread power outages this far inland from a hurricane was 16 years ago to the day when Katrina made landfall. And so it's just a sober reminder of something, you know, all storms are very different, but that's kind of the baseline for the power outages situation that we're going to deal with here. And it's going to be really easy for tropical storm gusts. I mean, there's the sustained winds 2 p.m. on Monday over Jackson at 50 miles per hour, gusts even higher than that. And we're already, by that point, going to have several inches of rain falling here across central Mississippi. So our rainfall forecast for us locally is 4 to 8 inches. And so the soils are going to be extremely saturated. And when you add sustained tropical storm winds on that, it is going to be just so easy for full trees, power lines to come down. And that's going to cause widespread power problems for us here in the central and south part of the state.
We have team coverage here for you folks on Tracking the Tropics, whatever app, website, social media platform you're watching on right now. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here live with you throughout the afternoon now, or really the morning into the afternoon hours here. Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly joining us here. We're also going to have KXAN Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans joining us here in just a moment. As well as, of course, we have Jacob Lanier here as well from WJTV in Mississippi. We can get to your comments here, folks. You see it here on the bottom of your screen. We've activated the Meteorologist Q&A. Use any of the hashtags that we have here on your screen, from hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey Jacob, hashtag Hey JB, especially the folks in Louisiana and Mississippi. Let us know where you are joining us from, where you have questions about. Give us locations, and we can try our very best here to give you an idea as to what to expect here over the next 90 or so minutes, or wherever you're joining us from over the next several hours there, especially in coastal Louisiana and some of the inland sections of Louisiana and Mississippi. We'll get to this question here really quickly, Amanda, as we wait for David here, who's about to join us here in just a moment. But William here asking, hashtag Hey JB, this development was quick and strong. Could more storms happen like this soon? And of course, we're keeping a very close eye here on Ida, but rapid intensification, this is the time of year where we see hurricanes really pop up.
This is the time of year that we see hurricanes pop up, and the Gulf waters are so warm that it's much easier for the stronger storms, more organized storms, to go through processes of rapid intensification. There's been several studies as well that have been done in the past few years that the process that takes place with rapid intensification is happening more frequently with hurricanes that form. Usually we see the category 3, 4, and 5 hurricanes, the major hurricanes, go through at least one cycle of rapid intensification, but we're seeing more and more storms go through this. In fact, last year we had a record-tying number of storms go through a process of rapid intensification. And that's, we don't just throw that term around lightly. It actually has criteria. So typically we can say it may go through a period of rapid intensification. We can forecast that, but we can't actually say it has until it does so. So it has to actually increase its maximum sustained winds 35 miles per hour in a 24-hour time span. Hurricane Ida did way more than that. In fact, it did that in only a matter of 6 hours.
Again, just speaks to what kind of systems we can expect this time of year. Let's bring in KXAN Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans joining us, folks, from Louisiana. You see him there now in the top left-hand portion of your screen above me. David, great to have you on. Of course, our Tracking the Tropics fans know David Yeomans from his work at KXAN in Texas. Where are you, David? And tell us exactly what you're experiencing here at this hour.
JB, Amanda, good morning. Thanks for having me on here. We are in Houma, Louisiana, down in Terrebonne Parish. This, as you guys know, is right under that center track from the National Hurricane Center. I just measured it out on radar. We are no more than 50 miles away from the eye wall, the most intense part, and we should actually see the sun shining here in the eye of the storm in about 3 to 4 hours from right now. So far, you can see the wind's getting a little gusty. We've had some gusts of tropical storm force, but really nothing more than that. Light to moderate rain in the rain bands. You can see the trees are blowing there in the distance, the power lines swaying just a bit, but honestly, really nothing too too bad here. You're looking toward the Halma General Hospital there in the distance with a big windsock there, pretty extended on top. You know, all of our phones though here, my crew and my phones just sounded that Amber Alert tone, that big alarm in your pocket out of the blue. This is an extreme wind warning, which is in effect for all of southeastern Louisiana. This is one of the most rare warnings issued by any National Weather Service office. In fact, even for the hurricane-prone New Orleans National Weather Service forecast area, this is the first time in history they have ever issued an extreme wind warning using verbiage that pops up on your phone like hide your head, stay away from windows, seek shelter immediately. We will be seeking shelter in this reinforced concrete parking garage to show you guys how bad the worst of the storm gets. Now, as you guys know, we're talking about now a top 5 landfalling U.S. hurricane in history, and this, if we do reach winds of 155 miles per hour, should be the strongest storm to ever hit Louisiana since at least records began back in the 1850s.
Now, David, meteorologist Amanda Hawley here from Tampa, Florida. You know, you're only about 17 miles from the coast. You guys are going to experience those hurricane force winds. Do you know if many people stayed in this location? Was this an area that was under a mandatory evacuation? You know, are you expecting the storm surge? It looks like you're going to be in a reinforced building. That's good, but you know, it's going to be a rough day for you.
Yeah, Amanda, well, we were talking with a lot of folks at the gas station and at the store yesterday. Most things were closed, but we ran into a lot of people who were either saying, I think 50% of them were saying, I'm going to lose everything, I'm getting the heck out of here. Other 50% said, I don't run, I'm not scared, I've been through X, Y, and Z. But as you guys know, you really can't compare any current storm to a past one. Everybody says, oh, I've been through Katrina. Well, Katrina was only a Category 3 and it didn't hit here directly. This is a Category 4, borderline 5. So I think the folks who have chosen to ride out here, which is too many of them for my comfort, honestly, they may be in for an unpleasant surprise. And by the time you get that unpleasant surprise, it is really too soon to leave. Last night, we were down on the coast where the levees are actually closed. You couldn't go any farther on the road. Those new levees down there on the way to Cocodrie, a small community south of Houma. All of this area, by the way, is under mandatory evacuation and curfew. You couldn't go any farther on that road. Those levees were built in 2018. They have not yet had a real test. They were telling me they can hold back about 14 feet of Gulf of Mexico ocean rise. As you know, we may see 15, 16 feet of ocean rise. If that levee is breached or overtopped, all of Terrebonne Parish will be flooding this afternoon.
David, it's JB here in Tampa. Before we let you go here on Tracking the Tropics, there's a lot of folks here joining us in the Facebook Live comment section. I'm, of course, here monitoring all the comments that are coming in, thousands of them here across our various social media channels. A lot of folks asking about your procedure now as far as staying safe. Of course, the area that you're in Houma, mandatory evacuation, but as far as documenting what's going on there in Houma and the steps that you take to be safe, what are you going to do now? Where are you going to go, and how are you going to keep yourself and your crew there safe in Houma?
Sure, and I appreciate those viewers' concerns. You know, of course, the bottom line is we would never want to put ourselves in the amount of jeopardy, safety-wise, to where a first responder would need to come rescue us and put themselves in jeopardy. So to avoid doing that, we've sought out an elevated, concrete reinforced structure, something that gives us a view to show you guys how bad the storm is, but also something that allows the wind to pass through harmlessly and allows us to get up and off the ground. You know, all of Terrebonne Parish might be covered, according to the NHC surge projections, of in 3 to 9 feet deep of water. So being able to get up off ground level is certainly important. You know, we've been through many hurricanes before, but I know this one will be one of the strongest any of us have been through. We are taking every safety precaution necessary. We do believe, just as it's important for journalists to be in dangerous areas to show you the news happening, we think it's important also for meteorologists to be in dangerous areas to show you just how bad the storm gets.
KXAN Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans in Houma, Louisiana. Folks, give him a follow on social media if you want an idea as to what it's like there in coastal Louisiana and some of the areas that are getting impacted here at this hour by Hurricane Ida. From all of us here in Tampa, and from Jacob, of course, joining us from WJTV, stay safe out there, David, and perhaps we'll catch up with you a little bit later on. And from all of our fans here, stay safe out there.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you guys here in a bit.
All right, David Yeomans joining us there from Houma, Louisiana. Let's get Jacob a question here from one of our fans that's been waiting patiently here. And we know that we have a lot of commenters here joining us on Tracking the Tropics here, using the hashtag system that we have here. Use a hashtag, ask a question. Jared Fleming from WJTV's Facebook page, where Jacob is joining us from, hashtag Hey Jacob. Do you think that Ida bumps to a Category 5 before landfall? You know, one of our other commenters, Jacob, just noted here as well that really at this point it's just a number at this point with the effects of this system and the way that it's hitting Louisiana here at this hour. But is there any minute chance that we get a Category 5 storm here in the next few minutes or in the next hour or so?
Yeah, I mean, it could be possible. I think it's likely going to stay probably just below. I mean, but again, 155, 157 miles per hour does not really make a difference. Again, it's just been noted by so many people that the winds in southeast Louisiana, they're near Houma, Grand Isle, even areas just south of New Orleans, the winds are going to be stronger in this storm than they felt in Hurricane Katrina. Those strongest winds were in the Mississippi coast. So you will not have experienced a storm of this strength in those southern bayou parishes of Louisiana. So just a very dangerous and catastrophic storm, whether it's a Category 4 or Category 5 at landfall. And I think that we are just getting in that new 10, 11 a.m. advisory. And it looks like it's still, Amanda, a Category 4 hurricane.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that. The 11 a.m. just came in. Couple of things to note here. Maximum winds haven't changed, but that pressure actually came up 3 millibars, which is kind of interesting. So the strength of the storm in terms of the wind speed is still the same. We're still going to see that catastrophic damage right along the coast. But the movement has slowed down another mile per hour. I mean, the slowing down in that forward motion has been slow today. It was moving at northwest at 16 miles per hour most of the night, dropped to 15, dropped to 14 an hour ago. Now it's at 13. We're going to continue to see this forward motion drop off and slow down. It's not going to stall, but we are going to see this move through the New Orleans area, southern Louisiana, and through your area, Jacob. It's going to be a slow process. It's going to be an all-day event lasting through tomorrow as well.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to express to a lot of our folks here in Mississippi, because when we're used to landfalling hurricanes, again, you know, we're comparing this to Katrina, another large hurricane that made landfall in Mississippi. Katrina moved through in less than 24 hours, but because it had a higher forward speed, it was a hurricane further inland. This is slowing down. It could get as slow as 6 or 7 miles per hour later tonight or tomorrow. So there's problems, there's goods and bads with that. The good news is it's going to weaken as it sits there, but that means that the winds are going to be prolonged. So you're going to be dealing with the sustained hurricane force winds there in southeast Louisiana for at least 24 hours. And we're going to deal with at least 24 hours of sustained tropical storm conditions here in Mississippi. So the slow movement is not good for the continued winds. It will also prolong the tornado risk for Louisiana and Mississippi, and it will also allow higher rainfall amounts to accumulate. And all three of those are just really bad scenarios that'll impact the power outages and the flooding situation in Louisiana and Mississippi.
We're of course monitoring a lot of different Facebook pages, a lot of different social media comment sections. We're really going to start to ramp up now, taking as many questions as we can from you, our viewers, wherever you are watching us from. But we're really going to target some of the Facebook pages from our sister stations in coastal Louisiana and in Mississippi. I'm talking about KLFY's Facebook page, WGNO's Facebook page, WJTV's. A lot of these television station Facebook pages, we're going to tap into those comment sections now and try to get to as many of the hashtag Hey Jacob, hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey JB comments here as possible. One of our biggest fans here, Wayne, joining us here, Wayne Dahlberg, hashtag Hey Amanda. What about storm surge in Houma, where of course David Yeomans was just joining us from?
You know, the storm surge with this storm is going to be high because we've got those really strong winds, and I'll get the radar back on there with the stats. So 150 mile per hour winds on the eastern side, right where that eye wall is. All of those winds are pushing the water toward the coast. I was looking at some buoys earlier, and a buoy not near the center of the storm had wave heights approaching 30 feet. That was not near the center. So those wave heights and the water are all pushing toward the coast at this point, and the National Hurricane Hurricane Center was talking about potentially 12 to 16 feet of storm surge right to the right of where this comes ashore. Now, if the center actually moves over Homa, which we do believe it will, I think the highest storm surge is going to be just to the right of that, just to the east, but all of the coastline of Louisiana, including the mouth of the Mississippi, they are going to see much higher than normal water levels over the next 24 hours. I do think that the tides right now are at their lower stage, and we're not going through a multi-tide day. We're actually going to go through a low tide throughout the afternoon. So that's great news, but still, it's really not going to make too much of a difference. 12 to 16 feet of storm surge is a lot of water on top of those tides.
I'm going to bring you both up here for this next one from Caitlin Harper from WGNO's Facebook page in New Orleans. Hashtag HJB, is the latest 160 mile per hour plus recon reading legit, or was it contaminated by rain? And some of our Tracking the Tropics super fans out there monitoring some of the statistics coming in here at this hour. So Amanda, I don't know if you've also seen that recon reading as well, or Jacob, if you have, but that's the question that we have here from Caitlin.
So a lot of times the recon flights are getting levels in the upper levels of the atmosphere. They can't fly right at the surface. So they're dropping the dropsondes, and we have to get the data from the dropsondes as they descend toward the water. And a lot of times people will see the actual data reading from the upper levels where their flight level readings are, and those are always going to be higher than what's actually happening at the surface. I haven't seen the actual report yet, but the newest track that just came out actually keeps Ida at a 150 mile per hour sustained wind as it moves ashore. And because we saw that pressure increase a little bit, I don't think that we're going to see too much more of an increase in wind speeds. And, you know, we can see gusts as well higher than this. These are sustained winds, but the gusts can be well into the 160s, right, Jacob?
Yeah, for sure. You know, again, right now it's max winds of 150 miles per hour. Those are sustained, so gusts could get up to 160, 170 mile per hour. And we could see sometime soon there near Grand Isle or one of those buoys offshore could report a gust higher than the official sustained wind speed. And again, as Amanda was saying, the hurricane hunter is doing a few more passes through this eye wall before it makes landfall. They're going to track it right up until it crosses land, but then it becomes too dangerous for them to fly over land. So that's when we transition from the recon, the hurricane hunter's flight, and their observation of wind speeds in the eye wall to what anemometers are actually measuring on the surface in Louisiana. So that transition, it's more difficult to measure the highest wind speed because we don't have weather stations everywhere. So it's kind of interpolating, kind of taking the data and seeing where those higher wind speeds are.
How about Jennifer here with this question, hashtag HJB, what Cat 5s have hit the United States? Of course, Category 5 is the highest category that there is on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It's rare to reach Category 5 status. Right now, Ida, a Category 4 storm. It's even more rare for a Cat 5 to make landfall in the United States, Amanda. So to Jennifer's, I'll bring you both up here again for Jennifer's comment here about Cat 5 storms.
Yeah, there haven't been many, and we've seen more Category 4 storms hit the United States than Category 5. It's just incredibly difficult for a hurricane to, one, sustain those wind speeds for that amount of time, because what we see happen is when it gets that strong, it actually starts to go through an eye wall replacement cycle, which briefly weakens the storm, and then it strengthens again after that. So, you know, for it to hit at that Cat 5 status is rare. It hasn't happened many times. I want to say 3 or 4. Jacob, do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, yeah. So right now, winds are at 150 miles per hour, a forecast landfall at 155. There's only been 4 landfalls in the continental U.S. since 1851, and they were the Labor Day hurricane, Hurricane Camille, Andrew, and Michael, which was, of course, in 2019 in Florida. So all of those 4 hurricanes were Category 5 storms. This is a very high-end Category 4 storm, and will probably add to that list of 155 mile per hour winds or higher at landfall in the U.S.
And again, you know, one of the things we haven't really talked about here on the stream so far, or if it was mentioned, forgive me, but again, talking about a storm that is going to be hitting coastal Louisiana, likely as a Category 4 storm on the 16-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina making landfall August 29th, that being, of course, 2005. So here we are here. Eerie similarities between these two systems. Again, tracking the tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly here with you. Jacob Lanier, meteorologist from WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi. Let's start to get to some locations here if we can. Stacy Yarbrough from WGNO's Facebook page, #HeyAmanda, asking about St. Charles Parish in Louisiana. And we're going to, of course, be trying to do our very best here, folks, to bring up as many of these locations as possible to tell you, what you can expect there, what is, if the worst is still to come in that area, or when the worst is going to be arriving. So St. Charles Parish there, just west of New Orleans, Amanda, and it's not too far away from where the eye wall is right now. Yeah,
so St. Charles Parish is, like JBC said, just to the west of New Orleans, and you guys will be experiencing those hurricane force winds. As much as the eye wall holds together as it moves ashore, we are going to be seeing probably some very strong wind gusts, maybe even over 100 miles per hour in the St. Charles Parish area. I'm just going to try and zoom in. It's actually right on the edge of this bay, and there's going to be storm surge in this area as well because it's going to be so close to the eye. It's really, you're really not that far from shore, so I would expect those wind gusts, over 100 miles per hour, and the storm surge to move in as well.
Let's get to this question that just came in here a moment ago from Chris Aaron here in the Facebook Live comment section. And he asking from WMBB's Facebook page, to the east on the Florida Panhandle, #HeyJB, could it slow and circle around back into the Gulf? And based on every model that we have seen, Amanda and Jacob, this is not going to happen.
Yeah, I have the forecast models up right now for you, and they're still in very good agreement. They've been in good agreement since even before this storm has formed, and it is likely going to move through the Tennessee Valley and then off the mid-Atlantic coast. Now, could we see, if it moves out into the Atlantic, maybe near some warmer waters, could we see the regeneration there? That's possible, but not a single model is showing it kind of recurving back into the Gulf.
There's high pressure kind of sitting over Georgia and Florida, and that's what's going to direct that up towards the north, eventually heading out towards the mid-Atlantic. So really, there's really no way that this is going to get back into the Gulf of Mexico.
We got a few more locations coming your way, Jacob, here. Larry Kine Sr. from WJTV's Facebook page, #HeyAmanda. I live in Greenwood, Mississippi. Do I need to be worried about this hurricane? Do we need to evacuate? Just a bit north from you there in Jackson, Jacob.
Yeah, that's right. So Greenwood up in the Mississippi Delta, likely we will see tropical storm conditions in the Mississippi Delta. And what we always say is when you're evacuating, you need to run from the water and hide from the wind. So most of inland Mississippi does not need to evacuate because we're not going to see the storm surge that is deadly on the coast. We're going to see sustained tropical storm force winds. And the best thing that you can do when those winds arrive is treat it like a tornado warning, and you'll seek shelter in an interior room in your house and away from windows and doors. And that's going to be the safest way to ride out the tropical storm winds, whether you're in the Mississippi Delta, here in Jackson, Mississippi, or in South Mississippi, where we could see some hurricane force gusts, maybe near Natchez.
Amanda, if we can here for a second, let's see if we can zoom in on the map here. We are really close now to a landfall event. And again, for those of you just joining us here on Track of the Tropics, a landfall hasn't occurred yet, but the eye wall clearly here moving ashore here in coastal Louisiana. And a landfall event is declared by the National Hurricane Center. And that's not when the eye wall moves over land. It is when the center, as determined by the National Hurricane Center, the precise center of the actual eye itself moves over land. That could happen here in the next 60 to 90 minutes or so, Amanda, based on the speed. I mean, we're down now to 13 miles per hour movement speed here, but we're getting really close. And it looks like the only town I can see here looks like Golden Meadow. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm going to zoom in.
Or Grand Isle, yep.
Zoom in a little bit more. Some more counties will show up here. And you can see the coastline. That's the edge of the coastline. So Grand Isle right here. And it's not far off from this point. We've got 20 miles until, again, the center of the storm kind of moves ashore. But we keep talking about it. It's the actual worst impacts are felt outside of the center. The center, where you see the clear area from radar on your screen, the winds are light, the skies are clear. They're going to see sunshine, as you heard David Yeomans talking about earlier. It's the areas that are outside, and this is the eye wall. This is the strongest winds, the 150-mile-per-hour winds. That is kind of still on that backside of that eye wall.
Yeah, so those are the conditions that we're really going to be monitoring as far as where they're going to be moving ashore here again. Sometime perhaps again, doing a little bit of math here, Amanda, you were just noting, so 13 miles per hour winds or movement speed. And what was the center? Is something about
it was about 20 miles.
20 miles or so. So yeah, in the next hour and a half, folks, the worst of Ida moving ashore here to some of these coastal communities. Just about all of them here under a mandatory evacuation, told to clear out here. We were live a little bit earlier in Houma, and we have a question, I believe, coming in from Houma here. We'll get to that one here in a second. Let's get to this one here from Jeanette Henderson, KTVE's Facebook page. Hashtag, hey, Amanda, any news on West Monroe?
I haven't heard anything specifically. I just want to make sure I'm getting the right areas here for you.
West
Monroe,
Monroe,
over to Jacob.
Yeah, West Monroe sits just towards the west of Vicksburg, Mississippi, and that is likely going to be on the west side of the center. So Hurricane Ida is going to track up the Mississippi River. It goes over Baton Rouge, up the Mississippi River. So Monroe, West Monroe, Louisiana, they're close to I-20, is going to be on the west side of the storm with lower winds. Still tropical storm gusts possible, but certainly the much higher impacts going to be towards the east of you. So probably some rain and wind, but nothing too severe for West Monroe.
A lot now of those questions coming in about particular towns and cities in Louisiana. Let's start here with Kelsey from WGNO's Facebook page, hashtag, hey, JB, for Houma, how many feet of rain are you thinking? And that's where David Yeomans was just a short time ago, KXAN chief meteorologist, and they could see some significant rain totals here in the next couple of hours, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere between 6 and 15 inches locally up to 20 is certainly not out of the question. Again, Houma is going to be an area where the center comes ashore. So when the center is over them, you're not going to see rain during that time. So you're going to see really, really heavy rain leading up to the eye moving over you. And then during the centers, you're going to be quiet.
Check this out, you guys. Hold on a second. I'm trying to bring this up. Jack shot in New Orleans. Let's see if we can listen in here for a second. It's getting pretty bad there in New Orleans.
I can't even hear you right now. Woo! That's what we do right here.
Jack's starting to feel clearly here. Jack's starting to feel some of those wind gusts that we've been talking about here, and the camera crew just trying to keep the lens clear. We'll monitor this shot here, but they were just almost looking like they were about to get blown across the street there. This is in New Orleans. There's Jack on the move here, might be trying to get to a safe spot. We have camera crews across coastal Louisiana, folks. We're going to tap into some of these live feeds as they become available. Jack here clearly looking for a safe spot to get to as we're back here live, everybody on Tracking the Tropics. Amanda Holly, Jacob Lanier. And Jacob, hey, I just want to pass this along. I know that you have a lot to get to as far as your viewers in Jackson, Mississippi. You need to hop off at any time. Just let us know. I know that you're at home now, but you likely have to head into work and get in front of the green screen and get to work. So how much longer can you hang out with us here from Jackson?
I can probably do about 10 more minutes here before I got to get to my next call and conference call at 10:30. We're going to expect those tropical storm winds to arrive in Mississippi this afternoon. So things going to go downhill for us pretty soon. All
right. So, folks, last call for your questions. Hashtag, hey, Jacob, for meteorologist Jacob Lanier, again, joining us from WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi. How about Eric Knott, KLFY's Facebook page? Hashtag, hey, JB, any update on wind expectancy for Lafayette, Louisiana? Jacob and Amanda, I'll bring you guys both up here to take that one about Lafayette.
So I pulled up the National Weather Service from New Orleans has kind of the Lafayette area looking at sustained winds, possibly as far or as strong as 74 miles per hour. So they're going to be right on that border of sustained strong tropical storm and a low-end Category 1 hurricane force winds. Of course, gusts in Lafayette could be hurricane force. the bullseye of those hurricane winds going to be a bit further east in Baton Rouge, Amanda.
Yeah, I think Baton Rouge is going to see, some of the stronger wind speeds with this as well. But I just have radar kind of looping right now. And Lafayette, right in the middle of your screen, there is a band about to move through Lafayette. And, we're going to see gusts well into the tropical storm force range with this particular band. It is the outer band. It'll probably be one of the first several that move through. So kind of hunker down as this band moves through. And, the worst is yet to come. Those sustained winds will steadily increase as we go through the next few hours.
Lauren West, WGNO's Facebook page, #Hey Amanda, how is it going to be in Slidell, Louisiana?
Slidell, you guys are going to be even farther to the east than New Orleans will. I do think that you'll see the sustained tropical storm force winds. And, you've already seen several of the bands come through. So you've seen the really heavy rain pick up really fast, the gusts move through. There's another band about to pass through Slidell and New Orleans right now. And then, again, the sustained tropical storm force winds will slowly increase throughout the day. You're going to experience the heavy rain, flooding, flash flooding, certainly a possibility. Can't rule out a brief tornado moving through as well, but I think the strongest hurricane force winds are going to be just to your west.
How about this one? Yeah, hold on, Jacob. I want to get you here from your Facebook page, WJTV, Nancy Wood, #Hey Jacob. What about Brookhaven and Hazelhurst?
Yeah, so those areas just south of Jackson and both Brookhaven and Hazelhurst under the tropical storm warning. We're going to see gusts in those spots up to 65 or 70 miles per hour, so just below hurricane strength. And those are some of the areas south of Interstate 20 in Mississippi could lose power, and to the south, some spots could be without power for a day or so. So that's going to be the widespread damage from this sustained tropical storm force winds that we see down near Brookhaven and Hazelhurst, along with the 4 to 8 inches of rainfall and the tornado threat that begins this afternoon.
How about this, you guys? Let's just kind of show you really quickly if we can. This is now a live picture here from WGNO. That was a reporter there, and you can see now we're tapping into their coverage here. We're going to bounce around to some of the stations there, as well as some of the press conferences if they come in here, but that was just a quick shot of one of the reporters kind of blowing there in the wind. Again, Jacob Lanier, Amanda Holly, JB Buno here. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen, and we can ask some of the questions that we have coming in here in the Facebook Live comment section. But really quickly, Amanda, why don't you just kind of reset for us? Let us know what is happening here at this hour with Hurricane Ida.
So Hurricane Ida, we got the 11 a.m. advisory in about 16 minutes ago. Sustained winds are at 150 miles per hour. Again, that is right near the center of the storm in the eye wall. So just outside that clear space that you see kind of making its way toward landfall. Landfall probably about an hour and a half away, but the impacts that are really going downhill at this point, right along the coastline of Louisiana, the southeastern coastline of Louisiana. We've seen several rain bands move through. Those contain really gusty winds and some very heavy rain. We're going to continue to see Ida slow down in that forward motion over the next several hours. This is going to be a longer event for Louisiana, Mississippi, and then as it pulls off into the north through the Tennessee Valley. But the wind speeds, they are going to weaken pretty quickly as this moves ashore, but it's going to maintain that at least Category 1 strength, as Jacob was talking about, possibly moving over the Louisiana-Mississippi border. And the heavy rain combined with the winds, it's likely going to lead to some power outages, some flash flooding, and we can't rule out the tornado threat either.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. We already have a tornado watch in effect for parts of southeast Louisiana and southeast Mississippi. That's going to go until 7 o'clock this evening. And I think within the next couple hours, we're going to see additional tornado watches as those rain bands are already expanding out towards Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Natchez, Mississippi, too.
How about we have Jack Royer joining us here, everybody. Let's listen into his live report.
How heavy the rains have been, how hard this wind has been. It's about 10:15 in the morning here in New Orleans, and it's the start of a very long day, very long 24 hours, and likely days ahead to come. Thank you.
Another whip.
All right, tapping in there again to some of the live reporters that we have there in some of the areas that we're talking about here on the map on the center of your screen here, folks. That was Jack Royer in New Orleans, Louisiana. We also have, of course, David Yeomans in Houma, Louisiana. They're a bit southwest of New Orleans. And really, Amanda, as we we're going to get to some more of the questions coming in here, folks here using any of the hashtags on your screen. But right now, still looking pretty impressive here on satellite as far as the eye wall there in the center of your screen, folks. It's this is still a pretty impressive storm, and still, again, max winds at 150 miles per hour.
Yeah, the devastation right along the coastline is going to be catastrophic. The storm surge is going to add to that devastation. But again, I just want to reiterate, the maximum winds here, the 150 mile per hour winds, they're only occurring right near the center in the eye wall. It's the most dangerous part of the storm. It's right here. Haven't seen a whole lot of lightning within the past several minutes. So that's some good news, because lightning typically can indicate strengthening. We saw the pressure come up a few millibars. So, whether it's 150, 155 mile per hour winds, it doesn't really make a difference at this point. It's happening. The condition's really going downhill at this point.
How about this question here from Tamara Powers Burge, WGNO's Facebook page, hashtag Hey Amanda. Any specifics on Venice? And a big shout out to our digital content producer Heather Monahan for giving us a little bit of more specifics. Folks, there's a lot of very, very small, minute towns and parishes all throughout coastal Louisiana. Jacob knows better than we do, of course, joining us from Jackson, Mississippi. Some of the towns here in the New Orleans area, outside of New Orleans, really, really small as far as population. Venice, from Heather Monahan, an unincorporated community in Louisiana. So do you have any more details on that one, Jacob?
Yeah, so Venice down near Plaquemines Parish, kind of near the mouth of the Mississippi River. And I also can mention Venice along with Houma, Grand Isle, the Plaquemines Parish, Terrebonne, Lafourche, Lower Jefferson parishes in areas south of New Orleans are all under an extreme wind warning because landfall is expected in the next hour or two. That's a rare warning from the National Weather Service. That means sustained winds over 115 miles per hour are expected, just like a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning. But there in that purple shading is the extreme wind warning for, again, Lower Jefferson, Lafourche, Plaquemines, Terrebonne Parish. They're south of New Orleans. Venice is included in that. Houma, Grand Isle with landfall here in the next hour or two. Yeah,
Venice is actually a really popular place. A lot of people go there. It's a big part of the fishing industry in Louisiana, right at the mouth of the Mississippi River. And they are experiencing those at least hurricane force gusts, if not sustained hurricane force winds right now.
Again, taking your questions here, folks, in a meteorologist Q&A. You can use any of the hashtags that we have here on your screen, and we can feature some of the comments that we have coming in here. And we just had one from your Facebook page in Jackson, Jacob, WJTV, and I'm sure that that they're preparing a lot of live coverage if you're not already in live wall-to-wall coverage at your station, Jacob, but asking about live reporters on the coast in Mississippi. And do you know where your colleagues are at this hour, Jacob?
Yeah, I know our big Tracking the Tropics and Next Star team, we have people all over Louisiana and Mississippi, and I think our crew from Mobile going to be on the Mississippi coast later on today. And also for our Central Mississippi viewers and for WJTV, WHLT, we're already doing hourly updates on the TV, and we're going to go wall to wall when the tropical storm conditions and tornado warnings arrive here in Central Mississippi. I know we're going to have crews in South Mississippi where we're expected to lose power for days in places like Natchez and Macomb. And again, those conditions start to go downhill this afternoon and last through the night and into the day on Monday.
Jacob Lanier, folks, catch him on WJTV, meteorologist over there, and of course give him a follow on social media. Jacob, as always, appreciate you joining us. You're taking some time out of your day. We know you have a lot of long hours here ahead. To you and the entire WJTV team, of course, be safe and good luck.
Yeah, thanks, JB and Amanda.
All right, back here with you live, folks. JB Buno, Amanda Holly here with you live on Tracking the Tropics. Again, monitoring Hurricane Ida and the Category 4 storm moving ashore here at this hour. And we have a lot of comments coming in here. We're going to try to get to as many of them as possible. Amanda, as we're waiting for some of these new comments just to load up here into our system, any new advisors or anything of note that you have that just kind of you just paid attention to in the last several minutes?
Yeah, I'm just kind of going through the discussion at this point from the National Hurricane Center that came out a few minutes ago. They talk about that Ida's strengthening. Looks like it has leveled off at this point, and that's what I've been talking about with that pressure kind of rising, the maximum sustained winds kind of holding steady. At this point, it's really not more about the forecasting. It's about the ongoing, we call it nowcasting, what's going on right now. And just looking at the radar, I'm gonna stop it so that you can really get an idea of what's going on. The northern band that kind of stretches all the way from Tallahassee up through the southern portion of Mississippi and over toward Baton Rouge, that's coming through and pushing off to the north. It's going to contain some gusty winds as it makes its way through your area. That's where we're going to be watching for those isolated tornadoes as well. So if you have a warning that is issued, make sure you have a way of getting alerted if a tornado warning is issued or any of the other warnings that go off. If a tornado warning is issued, you need to get into your safe place very quickly. If not, just kind of hunker there until this kind of all passes, because you usually don't get a whole lot of warning with tornado warnings in tropical systems like this. But as each band kind of makes its way through, the winds are going to get a little bit stronger. The rain is going to get a little bit heavier. It may taper off a little bit. Then it'll come back in and get a little bit stronger. And that's just kind of how tropical systems work. I will note, not related to Ida, we actually had Tropical Storm Julian form over the central subtropical Atlantic with the 11 a.m. advisory as well. So if you're hearing about that Julian, maybe on social media, that is a storm that is in the south central Atlantic and is not going to impact the United States. That's why we're obviously focused on Ida at this point. There have been several tornado warnings already in the western Florida panhandle. We've been watching those pretty closely. And again, that's just in that outer rain band. All of the threats that come with a tropical system are at play with Ida. We've been doing a lot of comparisons with Katrina, and I obviously it's very unfortunate and scary and just not fun for the folks that went through Katrina 16 years ago today. But there are a lot of differences with Katrina to Ida. Ida is stronger, but it's a lot smaller of a storm, and that leads to not quite as high of storm surge. So, we're not going to see the devastating storm surge impacts that we saw with Katrina. One, because the storm surge isn't as high, but two, the levees have been rebuilt. They've been engineered to withstand something like this. Landfall is actually going to be farther west than Katrina was, and it's coming in at a different angle, which also leads to some slightly different impacts. So this is not Katrina, just because it is a stronger storm. It is not Katrina, and I don't think that we're going to see quite the devastation that we saw with that storm.
And again, if you're just joining us, the Katrina comparisons, because it's making landfall on the same day, just 16 years apart as far as Katrina and Ida. Ida, of course, being here in 2021 here, folks. And the statistical peak of hurricane season, that opening week, really, of September. So this is not out of the norm. This is what we usually come to expect as far as this section of the Atlantic hurricane season. End of August, early September into the middle weeks of September, this is when we usually have a lot of activity. You hope that these storms form and they're fish storms. They just kind of go out to sea, that they don't have any real consequence for us here in the United States, or really anywhere here in our section of the world. But every now and again, you have a storm that intensifies or rapidly intensifies and hits a portion of the United States that's at least somewhat highly populated. The New Orleans area, of course, one of the more populated areas there on the northern Gulf Coast. A lot of folks live in New Orleans and the surrounding area. A lot of folks that are under mandatory evacuations here at this hour. So we're here live to give you the very latest here on Track in the Tropics with all the latest models that are coming in as we get closer to a landfall event. Some more questions coming in using hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda. We'll really kind of try to get to as many of these as possible. Shelly Arguello from KLFY's Facebook page, hashtag HeyAmanda. How is Kaplan, Louisiana looking? And Kaplan, Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it is southwest of Lafayette, Louisiana, Amanda here. And so they're already starting to feel impacts. They've been feeling impacts for some time there, I'm sure, in Kaplan, but probably going to get a little bit worse here in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, the worst of it is going to happen within the next couple of hours as this moves ashore and just as it pulls to your north. After that, the conditions are going to improve pretty quickly for you because you are going to be on the southwestern side of where the center passes from you. So that's better. That's, you're going to see the winds kind of being a little bit slower than you would if you were on the eastern side. But I would still expect the sustained tropical storm force winds there in Kaplan, Louisiana, for several hours through about 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and then conditions will slowly improve as you get through the evening hours.
How about from Rami Chiasin from KLFY's Facebook page, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda. Will St. Landry Parish lose power? Again, just getting a little bit more adjusted to my Louisiana geography, and I used to live nearby in Mobile. I used to drive through southern Louisiana, and that's, yes, north of Lafayette, Amanda.
Absolutely a possibility for you to lose power there. You're not going to be too far from where the center moves ashore. The winds are going to be strong enough to topple trees. The rain is going to be pretty heavy for a while as this kind of passes by you. And yeah, I do expect power outages in that particular area. And really, anywhere between 40 miles away from the center of the storm, power outages is certainly not out of the question. I will say, to give everyone there kind of watching a little bit of hope, there are a ton of linemen on the way to Louisiana and Mississippi right now. We actually had a crew from Tampa, Florida here leave earlier this morning. We have about 100 more leaving midday today, and there's a lot more folks on the way to help you guys out as soon as the danger passes.
How about this one here from Kacharli, hopefully I've pronounced that, or Kacharl, Baltimore, from WGNO's Facebook page. Hashtag, hey, JB, what time will it hit New Orleans? New Orleans, you know, Jack's shot, his live shot there, his live feed from New Orleans is down at the moment. If it comes back up, we'll show you what it's like right now in New Orleans. But when is the worst going to hit New Orleans, Amanda?
So again, we are still expecting this to slow down pretty significantly, not stalling, but slowing down pretty significantly throughout the day. And the official track that just came out 30 minutes ago from the National Hurricane Center has the center of the storm west of New Orleans at 8 p.m. tonight with winds of 105 miles per hour. So the worst of the storm is probably going to happen right around 8 p.m. tonight. And then after that, it's going to slowly continue to move off to the north, and those conditions will begin to improve as we head through the overnight hours. But even as you wake up tomorrow, I would sleep in your safe space still tonight, because even as you wake up tomorrow, the storm will be to the north of you. You're still going to see kind of some of those lingering rain bands move through. The winds, though, are not going to be nearly as strong.
And, you know, let's if we can here for a second, as we're looking here at the current track here from the National Hurricane Center, you can see there expected to, of course, with that land interaction, that imminent land interaction here, it's going to be downgraded from a Category 4 major hurricane to a Category 2 hurricane, the NHC saying by 8 o'clock tonight. Amanda, you were highlighting the zone there where there's the max winds of 150 miles per hour, that quadrant of the storm on the east side, or really the southeast section of the eye and the eye wall itself there. Here we go. So if we're looking here, right, okay, so everybody focus in here on these reds here next to the eye wall, or to the southeast side here of this eye wall. This it almost looks, it's the exact shape of like a moon, like a crescent moon that you would see in the sky. There it is. So is there a chance, Amanda, and what is the likelihood that this crescent moon here of the worst of Ida moving ashore here, smack dab hits New Orleans, Louisiana?
You know, it's not out of the question. I'm going to zoom back out so we can get an idea of
based on the track.
Yeah.
Based on the track, it looks like it's going to skip it, maybe just miss New Orleans. It's going to go a little bit west of New Orleans.
Yeah, so you got to think the center of the track here is going to take it, you know, right through Houma, and then it's actually going to recurve. So it's actually going to basically curve right around New Orleans. And I do think that New Orleans is going to be spared the strongest winds from Ida. I can't rule out some hurricane force gusts in New Orleans, but again, when we think back to Katrina, you know, lots of people experienced those hurricane force winds because Katrina's wind field was so large. Ida's wind field is very small in comparison, so those hurricane force winds don't extend out nearly as far. At last check, they only extended out about 40 miles from the center of the storm. And that's, again, those hurricane force winds, 74 miles per hour or greater. But the circle that you see there on your screen, that's where we're seeing the 150 mile per hour winds.
So the worst of this system, in all likelihood right now, folks, gonna miss New Orleans, but still a lot of some of the worst of the storm to the east of the eye wall there still going to impact New Orleans. So New Orleans is in for a rough go of it in the next couple of hours here, folks, as far as the system moving ashore.
Too, you know, New Orleans is going to be on the eastern side, so those winds are going to be a little bit stronger. and they are going to be coming in, you know, off the water. There's really not much land interaction before those winds are going to be making their way through New Orleans. So that will lead to some slightly stronger winds as well. It's not going to be a walk in the park for New Orleans. We're still going to see, I think, you know, bad conditions for several hours throughout the night tonight.
Yeah, thinking about all the folks in New Orleans, that is one of my favorite cities in the country. I love New Orleans. Really, for everybody here in coastal Louisiana, really hoping for the best. And we're here for you here, folks. Amanda Holly, JB Buno. We have more meteorologists that are set to join us. A lot of meteorologists that are live on the air right now. They're going to hop off, spend some time with us. Some of the live reporters that are going to be joining us here from some of these coastal communities here in Louisiana. We're going to stay here with you, folks, on Track in the Tropics. We might take a small break here to get the latest from the NHC and continue to monitor the latest advisories here. We might take a very brief break here in just a few minutes. But let's get to some of the other questions that are coming in here. I'm really sorry we didn't get to this one sooner. A lot of folks asking about New Iberia, Louisiana. Cynthia Roy from KLFY's Facebook page, #HeyJB, #HeyAmanda, asking about New Iberia.
You know, New Iberia, again, close to the coast there. I don't think, you know, the storm surge is going to be quite the problem in New Iberia. But again, close to the coast, you're going to experience the hurricane force winds without a doubt. Again, that's above 74 miles per hour. And it's going to be for a long period of time. Conditions already going downhill there. You're probably already seeing those sustained tropical storm force winds, and they're only going to get stronger as we head through the afternoon and then into the evening. Again, passing by you, the worst conditions probably right around 8 p.m. tonight, and then slowly improving throughout the overnight hours.
Again, let's take some more questions here from the Facebook Live comment section. Tyler Bonnet, KTVE's Facebook page. Yeah, all right, we'll take #AskAmanda here as well. How's it looking for Calhoun, Louisiana? And let's see if we can bring up Calhoun, Louisiana on the map here, folks. Again, trying to get to the very latest counties and communities feeling impacts from Ida and Calhoun, northern Louisiana there, I think along the interstate, right? Yeah, just along I-20, Amanda.
Yeah, so I, have some better news for you. You're in northern Louisiana. I do think that you're going to see some rain as it moves through you tomorrow morning. Probably going to be the worst for you then. That's when those kind of outer rain bands will be wrapping around the center. So some heavy rain, certainly some gusty winds. Can't rule out the tropical storm force winds anywhere between 40 miles per hour and maybe up to 60 miles per hour. You are going to be farther away from the center. But, tropical storm force winds, power outages not out of the question. You'll be on the western side, though, so not really too concerned about the isolated tornado threat, but you're going to be in a portion of the storm that is much weaker than it is right now.
Let's bring in a new meteorologist here, folks, joining us here on Tracking the Tropics. You, of course, in our meteorologist Q&A, you can, of course, ask questions here in the Facebook Live comment section using #HeyJB, #HeyAmanda, or, hey, let's bring in, of course, friend of the program from WIAT CBS 42, Birmingham, Louisiana, Dave Nussbaum, joining us here from Central Alabama. Dave, great to have you back on here. What are you monitoring at this hour as far as Hurricane Ida moving ashore here, getting really close here to a landfall event? Dave, I believe you're muted in the Zoom room.
Technology. How did you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Sorry
we got
that.
you.
There we go. Gotta love technology. But this morning, of course, watching very closely that eye wall, the northern eye wall, working its way toward Grand Isle, Louisiana. And this area is no stranger to hurricanes. Many hurricanes have hit there in the past, and this is going to be another one. You can see there on the radar, the northern eye wall about to get there. I was looking at some sites I follow and people I follow, storm chasers down there in Grand Isle, reporting winds gusting well over 100 miles per hour already. Grand Isle's kind of an outer island there, not much of an elevation to it. Anytime they see a normal easterly wind on a sunny day, they flood. So you put in a 10 to 15 plus foot storm surge there, and that's going to inundate the island. Of course, they're located there just kind of just due south of New Orleans in the southern part of Jefferson Parish. And they're going to expect to see the worst of it down there, at least right now, as those winds sustained, as you guys are talking about, 150 miles per hour. Just incredible to see there. There's Grand Isle, you can see on the radar map there. And so they're going to feel it first. Just to the west or southwest of there is an area called Port Fourchon. huge ports for shipping with oil, with all the oil rigs down there. You can see Port Fourchon, Leeville area. Those areas are going to get hit pretty hard. Shutting that port down is, of course, never a good thing, but they're going to be feeling that as it works its way over parts of Lower Lafourche Parish, Lower Jefferson Parish there, which is where Grand Isle is. And this is what we're starting to see. Now, you guys missed a little earlier of your coverage, but it looks like there may be a secondary eye wall going into Grand Isle right now. Hard to tell if this is exactly an eye wall replacement cycle, but you can see in the radar presentation there, the initial eye wall, and then looks like an outer eye wall forming. This would be, I dare say it, somewhat maybe good news, just because it would kind of cap the strengthening here. Obviously, you can see that eye is not too far away from land as it's crossing about 90 degrees west longitude there. And of course, 90-30 is where New Orleans is located. And so anytime it gets past 90, New Orleanians feel a little bit better there, as they know the storm's now just immediately off to the west of that point. But nonetheless, though, down along the coastline, similar spot to where in 2008 Gustav made landfall there. That one was a major hurricane weekend a little bit before landfall, but I've been telling my former viewers, since I used to work in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and we have sister stations there, they are going to expect to see at least Houma to Baton Rouge, very similar damage to what Gustav did. I mean, you can't really compare one hurricane from another, but this one is looking like it's going to be at least that at this time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Hurricane Ida is obviously going to be weakening as it moves ashore, but if you are on the center line of this path, you're going to experience those stronger winds, the heavier rain, you know, and the catastrophic damage, the wind speeds of 150 miles per hour, those are really only going to be felt right near the coast, but it is going to maintain that hurricane status as it kind of moves north. We've been talking about that, possibly maybe even toward the Louisiana, Mississippi border up toward Jackson. We'll see how long it actually holds the hurricane status, because it is going to be slowing down. But this one will be a devastating storm for the coastline of Louisiana.
Again, great to have WIT meteorologist Dave Nussbaum joining us, everybody from Birmingham, Alabama, tapping into all the meteorologists here across the southeastern United States, tapping into their expertise, their experience. Let's get to some of the questions that are coming in here in the Facebook Live comment section. This is where my job actually gets the most difficult, because some of the parishes, some of the small communities in coastal Louisiana, they can be a little bit tricky to pronounce. So we're going to do our very best to highlight some of these smaller communities, some of these communities with French or Cajun styled pronunciations, of course. So we're going to try here to do our very best, and feel free, Dave and Amanda, to correct me if I'm a little bit off base here. Vince Andre Acker from WGNO's Facebook page asking #Hey Amanda, what about Thibodeau?
Thibodeau.
Yep. Thibodeau. Thank you, Dave.
Thibodeau, yeah. Unfortunately, Thibodeau's going to be right in the path. I mean, that eye is going to go right over that. Basically, if you see Houma on the map there, Thibodeau is just a smidge off to the north there. So if you zoom on in toward Houma, you'll see Thibodeau kind of pop in there. There you see it. So that is going to be, unfortunately, in the direct path. For those down in Thibodeau, along Highway 90 there, this needs to be, you need to be in a place that is well secure. If you did not evacuate, hopefully you're not home. That would be kind of the best to be out of there. I know a lot of viewers down at Houma probably are still sticking around a little bit too, trying to ride this one out. Granted, it will be much weaker by the time it gets there compared to what it is now. You won't have the 150 plus mile per hour winds up in the Houma Thibodeau area, but sustained 80 to 100, gusts to over 100, not out of the question. And of course, torrential rains, that area can flood, and then we'll see some of that surge flooding get outside the hurricane protection levee system outside of Houma.
Let's get to this one here from, I can't believe we haven't talked about this community yet here this far now into our coverage. We've been live here. Let me get the exact time frame. We've been live here now for an hour and 10 minutes, and we're just now getting to Biloxi, Mississippi. Amber Muirhead from KLFY's Facebook page, #HJB, #Hey Amanda. What about Biloxi? Biloxi, of course, town known for all of its casinos there on the wonderful Mississippi Gulf Coast. What do we say here, Amanda and Dave, for Biloxi, Mississippi?
You're already starting to see some of those outer rain bands kind of wrapping through. You probably got a brief bout of some really, really heavy rain and those gusty winds. It's a little bit, you're getting a little bit of a break now. But I think, potentially briefly sustained tropical storm force winds certainly possible there. You're seeing the higher than normal water levels already, but you're not going to see the storm surge that's expected closer to the center. You're obviously a little bit farther away, but the rain will get a little bit steadier as you head into the evening hours, and then it'll start to lighten up as we head into tomorrow.
Yeah, the storm surge out there is going to be a problem. Already water coming up along the Mississippi coast. The barrier islands, of course, then the Mississippi Sound will feel the brunt of it first, and then kind of getting inland there up into the Biloxi Gulfport area. But yeah, they're going to have some surge flooding, but by no means getting anywhere near the strongest winds.
How about this one here from talking about storm surge from Jennifer Bowell-Meyer, KLFY's Facebook page, hashtag Hey Amanda. How do the winds and storm surge look like for South Louisiana? This is something we've been talking a little bit about, but why don't we update our viewers here on winds and storm surge for the Louisiana coast here?
You know, the peak storm surge that the National Hurricane Center has been talking about for at least the past 18 hours, I think they upgraded it, was 12 to 16 feet just to the east of, and I'm not going to say this right, Dave, you're going to have to correct me, how do you say it, the port?
Port Fourchon, is that
Fourchon.
what you're talking about?
Fourchon,
yeah. It's
yes.
like
So
Fourchon. Yeah, don't even say the end.
Port Fourchon to the mouth of the Mississippi River, we're expecting about 12 to 16 feet of storm surge. And then as you go farther to the east from the center, the storm surge slowly really starts to drop off. You know, we've got 8 to 12 feet of storm surge all the way up through Bay St. Louis there, and then 6 to 9 feet of storm surge as you go farther off to the east toward Ocean Springs. And then between Ocean Springs and the Mississippi-Alabama border, about 4 to 7 feet of storm surge, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge all the way up into Mobile Bay. And then even in the western sections of the Florida Panhandle, we're looking at about 1 to 3 feet of above normal tides, including in Pensacola Bay.
Yeah, and then you got to tie in Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas there, north of New Orleans. I mean, 5 to 8 foot surge is, I mean, the levee system there is well built. It's well built to withstand it. The gates going into all the canals there in New Orleans also built to withstand this. This is going to be the true test. Of course, they have not had a significant hurricane this strong testing it since, of course, Katrina. And we are looking at, again, water levels coming up. But the problem is with these, the north shore, right, the south shore of Lake Pontchartrain, that water can't go into New Orleans, can't go into Metairie, can't get into Kenner. It's going to keep going west. And the farther west it goes, it's going to find a place to go. And eventually that goes into parts of St. John Parish there. And eventually those areas near Laplace, Louisiana, they could deal with some storm surge flooding as that water comes into Lake Pontchartrain, right through the lake, right on into those areas there. Southern part of Tangipahoa Parish, St. Tammany Parish on the North Shore will be feeling some of the impacts of this as well, too. I know with Gustav as well as even Isaac, also on this date back in 2012, they did have significant surge flooding there because the water had to find a place to go. So those areas, even inland, ones you may not necessarily suspect, those not familiar with Southeast Louisiana, you may have to deal with some of that flooding in those areas kind of off to the west of New Orleans. But down there, of course, close to Lafayette area, we are talking like Vermilion Bay area. All that area is going to get significant surge water coming on in that'll work its way northward. Won't get quite up toward the New Iberia, Lafayette areas, but some of the other bayous around there as you go further south. We'll be feeling some of the impacts for sure of that water creeping on in to those areas.
How about this question here, Caitlin? And Caitlin, I think your last name might be as tough to pronounce as this name is here. Francois from KLFY's Facebook page, hashtag HJB, hashtag Hey Amanda. What to expect in Opelousas? What do we say here for Caitlin, Dave, and Amanda?
So that's just to the north there of Lafayette. And again, you're going to be near the center of this storm. So you're going to feel the strongest winds, what they are at the time it moves over you, but it's not going to be the 150 mile per hour winds that it is right now. Probably looking at hurricane force winds, maybe between 70 and about 80 mile per hour winds as it moves over the Opelousas areas north of Lafayette. The heavy rain, certainly a possibility. And again, this is going to be a longer event for you as well because we're going to see the slowdown in the forward motion. So you're going to experience those strong winds for a long period of time. So you're probably going to deal with power outages because the trees are, some trees are going to topple onto those power lines.
Yeah, wind is going to be probably the biggest issue out there, secondary rain, because you're going to be just either on the western edge of the hurricane there, kind of moving right through maybe the western side of the eye wall. Coming in. Again, one of the comparisons I like to say is, well, how much damage could there be? Go back to 2008. There was some significant damage up there from Gustav. You can see the forecast cone stops there over the Chafalaya Basin. That river you see between Baton Rouge and Lafayette is the Chafalaya River. So what we're seeing there is that's the cone edge. That doesn't mean it stops right there. So you're still going to feel the effects to Iberia, Lafayette, Opelousas area there, back over, not quite to Lake Charles. They won't feel the impacts of this. Even Alexandria there will feel some of the impacts too. But again, you're going to be kind of on the drier side, or the better side, if you will, of the system. So looking at the latest radar you guys showed earlier, it did not show a ton of rain the farther west you go. So that doesn't just say you're not going to get any, but you can see there's outer bands coming through. But notice there at the very end, there's a band coming through Baton Rouge now. But notice farther south, again, most of it's concentrated around the center. The bulk of the heaviest rain from the center, eastward, and north. That's typical, right? So those areas are still going to get 3-6 inches plus of rain, but obviously we'll see the winds. I don't know if you guys have talked about the wind field with this yet, but there's tropical storm force winds. I think last I checked, extending outward up to 215 miles from the center. So that's a big wind field with Ida.
Certainly has gotten larger in the past 24 hours, and we expected that. Obviously, it went through a period of rapid intensification. When we were talking about the storm just a few days ago, it was very small, obviously disorganized as well. But now it's a very symmetrical storm, but the strongest winds, extend out a little bit farther to the east on the eastern side. But yeah, I was just pulling that up because I haven't checked in a while, and it does look like the hurricane force winds extend outward about 50 miles from the center, and the tropical storm force winds, and that's again, the tropical storm force winds are about 39 miles per hour up to 74. They extend out 150 miles from the center of the storm. So yeah, the tropical storm force winds are going to be extending out well away from the center.
How about this one here from Joni Peoples, hashtag Hey JB. What about West Carroll Parish? Talking now about northeastern Louisiana here, a little bit more inland.
Yeah, that's not too far away from the Opelousas area. So those areas, again, same thing like we're kind of expecting in the Opelousas area. So we're talking 40, 60 plus mile per hour winds with some higher gusts. Very heavy rain, 3 to 6 inches of rain, not out of the question with this. You can see here's the future cast, if you will. And notice here, again, that what we're talking about, the timestamp, that's Sunday, that's tonight here at 9 p.m. And you can see basically centered about Baton Rouge. That's East Baton Rouge Parish, Livingston Parish, Ascension Parish, those areas there. Notice Lafayette doesn't have a lot of rain. That doesn't mean put the guard down. The wind will still be howling there. And as it continues to move its way northward toward Wilkinson County, Emmett County there in Mississippi, as it crosses on into southwest Mississippi there, again, that drier side I was just talking about, it may not be as bad. You're still going to get rain, still going to get wind, but the worst of it, by all means, heading on into parts of Emmett, Pike County, Walthall, Wilkinson counties there, Mississippi, heading up toward Franklin County, Mississippi, points up toward Jackson, then all the way there from New Orleans to Jackson, Mobile area and beyond. So West Carroll Parish, kind of closer there toward Alexandria. Again, you're still seeing, again, it's still going to get the rain and wind, but the heaviest maybe farther off to the east.
How about this one here from April Butler, WJTV's Facebook page, asking about Macomb, Mississippi. And we're going to, of course, start to talk a little bit more about Mississippi here in the hours ahead as we get a little bit more into some of the impacts that southwestern Mississippi is going to feel. Dave, Amanda?
Yeah, I'll kind of go back there on the restart the future radar because that's kind of on the other side of the storm that we were just talking about. So definitely the eastern side, that's going to be the messier side. It was as Dave was just talking about, the western side didn't have a whole lot of that rain, but now you're talking about the eastern side. You're certainly going to see a much higher rainfall accumulations and potentially some stronger winds there, Dave.
Yeah, if you go ahead and move that forward, Macomb, if you see the E in Baton Rouge go due north there as you cross over the Mississippi border, that's where Macomb, Mississippi is located. So there, that long, skinny parish is Tangipahoa Parish, and just north there is where Macomb, Mississippi is located. And they're going to feel those outer bands first, which could also produce tornadoes. And then you'll feel later on this afternoon and evening there, some of the heavy rain starts moving in. That center of circulation over Baton Rouge again about 9 o'clock. And you can see just northeast of Baton Rouge is where Macomb is located. And they'll start feeling the heavy rain. 6-12 inches of rain easily. Flooding issues concerning there as well, too. And there you see right there, if you stop it there, center of circulation is kind of just now to the northwest of Macomb. And that's where you're going to feel the worst of it. So tonight, while you're sleeping, early Monday morning, was at 5 a.m., I think you stopped at that. That's when some of the worst of it can be felt there in Macomb, Mississippi. And then looks like it finally starts to taper off as we get throughout late Monday morning, and then better weather by midday Monday.
All right, the next one coming in here is from Janetta Zachary here. Again, folks, JB Buno, let's kind of reset here for a second. JB Buno, Dave Nussbaum, Amanda Holly here with you live, everybody on Tracking the Tropics. They're the experts here on the right side of your screen. I'm here just to try to field some of the questions that we have coming in here, trying to be as much of a resource for you wherever you're watching from. Maybe you're watching from a different section of the country, but maybe you have family or friends or a son or a daughter attending college here in this area. We've got a lot of comments and questions about some of the colleges here in this area. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen. You see it animating there on the bottom of your screen. Use a hashtag, Hey Dave, Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey JB, any of these hashtags, and we can animate your comments here on screen. Next up is from Janetta Zachary, hashtag Hey JB. What about Gray, Louisiana? Gray, a small community here west of New Orleans, but just north of Houma there on 90.
Unfortunately, the storm is going to be going right over top of Gray. Yeah, they're going to be feeling some of the worst of it there as it works its way through here. As we get to later this afternoon, more into tonight, that's where you're going to find your 80, 100 mile per hour winds sustained with some higher gusts, incredible rainfall as well, too. You can see here that this is the current radar you're looking at right now, but that initial the center eye wall looks like it's just about the touch near the Port Fourchon area. So kind of up near the Houma area, that's when your Gray is located. Not much right now. But again, this is going to be working its way right over top of that same location into Gray as we head throughout later tonight.
How about this one just coming in here? It's for you, Dave. It's from Paige Collins from KLFY's Facebook page in Lafayette. Hashtag Hey Dave. What's the look for the Youngsville area? Flooding, wind effects?
Yeah, that's over near Lafayette. I actually have some family living over there. And again, they're not going to feel the brunt of it. I would suspect as you go kind of just south of Lafayette, not too far from New Iberia area, there's where Youngsville is located in south central Louisiana. Obviously some rain now, but we will still see winds maybe 40, 60 miles per hour there. And then eventually going to see some bands of heavy rain trying to get into that location. But again, the worst of it should be just off to the east of you. You can see some of those bands of rain coming in, getting into 8 o'clock tonight. You'll feel some of that. There's strong winds. Again, remember, just because you're not in the center of that wind field, as we were just talking about, as Amanda said, is extending significantly outward from the center. So, Lafayette to Baton Rouge is only about a 45-minute drive. Youngsville, maybe a little bit longer than that, 60 miles away. So you will definitely feel those stronger winds. So make sure in those areas you're definitely cleaning up anything outdoors, anything that can blow around and break. Still can knock down trees, still some power outages very likely going to be out in Lafayette, but of course the worst of it stays to Baton Rouge and New Orleans.
How about this question here from Nicole Stevens? Coming right back to you, Dave. Hashtag Hey Dave from KLFY's Facebook page. What are we looking at for Abbeville, Louisiana?
Yeah, Abbeville, not too far away from the New Iberia area, kind of just off to the west of New Iberia. You too will feel those winds, 40, 60 miles per hour, some heavy rain coming down at times as well. Just like we said for the Youngsville area, just make sure you've got things taken care of in your home. It's just one of these deals where you've dealt with many of these in the past, and you're going to feel the brush by, if you will, of this one here. You're kind of just far enough west to feel the worst of it, but still can see a couple inches of rain with those strong winds out there. And this is going to be not quite as bad for the south central Louisiana as they'll see in southeast Louisiana.
Dave Nussbaum joining us here, everybody from Birmingham, Louisiana, WIAT, CBS 42 Central Alabama joining us here, tracking the tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly here with us live as well. Amanda, I know that we've been getting updates now on the hour here. So is there a 12 o'clock advisory that has come in yet? Sometimes the advisories drop a few minutes beforehand. Figure I would just check in to see if there's any new advisories, any new notices put out by the NHC just yet.
No, I imagine it's going to come out any minute here. You can see the advisory number right at the top right of your screen, right under the word radar. It says 11 a.m. advisory. As soon as we get that 12 p.m. advisory in, of course, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central time, that will change, and we'll see all of those kind of update as well. But just looking at the current radar, this is from the New Orleans radar, so this is getting a really good view now of the eye of the storm. The clear spot, it's not raining, the winds are calm, but just on the outside where you see those yellows and the reds, that's where the strongest winds are occurring, and they are starting to move onshore right now, just south of Grand Isle, Louisiana. So it's actually probably going to get really calm in this area just after that first batch of really, really strong winds moves through. It's going to be calm for a period of time, and then the backside of the eye wall comes in, and then it's going to get probably a little bit worse.
How about Trina?
The new advisory looks like it just came in.
Hop in, Dave.
by the
Yeah.
way, there. I think if you saw there, say that's that 12 o'clock advisory. Nothing's changed. That's good news.
Yeah, good news here as far as the 12 o'clock advisory just coming in. Trina's comment here. Trina Marceau from KLFY's Facebook page, hashtag HeyJB. What will the water look like from Metairie Airport tomorrow? Storm surge expected in Vermilion Parish, Dave.
So over there in the Metairie Airport, I assume they mean the New Orleans International Airport there, right in Kenner, right by the area there. Again, that's strong. You're talking 80, 100 mile per hour winds, easily higher wind gusts there. So, to kind of give you a comparison, last year went through Zeta with all of you there. We had wind gusts over 100 at the lakefront. So that's not that far from there. So the type of tree damage, power outages as well too. I mean, myself was out power for 5 days down there. Very common occurrence. I mean, there's gonna be significant power outages expected out there going forward. But yeah, definitely plan for that. Street flooding for sure. I mean, those roads don't take much to flood. Those drainage canals will be filling up as well too. So be definitely watching all those closely as we go on into the rest of the night tonight. So that's what's gonna be bad. Unfortunately, in the dark. I think Vermilion Parish, is that what it was?
Yes.
What they're looking at? I think the surge out there, let me double check and see if there's some new numbers that have come into that area there. But still looking at potentially Vermilion Bay around 3 to 5 foot of surge. That's not too bad, but enough to get that water to go inland out there. I mean, there's a lot of flat land out there, a lot of crawfish and rice farms out there. So again, those areas may feel some of the impact of that.
Again, Dave Nussbaum joining us, everybody, from CBS 42 WIAT in Birmingham, Alabama. Folks, we're getting closer here to taking a brief break here, but we're going to be back here with more live reports, more live feeds here from some of the areas being impacted by Ida here at this hour. Really quickly, let's see if we can get this one in here for Amanda. Hashtag Hey Amanda from Lauren Ray Keith from WGNO's Facebook page. How will this affect central Mississippi? We received a lot of damage from Katrina. Should we expect the same from Ida?
So you got to remember the two storms are really different here. We are going to be talking about a slightly slower moving storm, but as it makes its way through central Mississippi, you're going to be dealing with a lot of heavy rain for a long period of time. So flash flooding possible. And then on top of that, because the rain's going to be falling and you're going to be experiencing those at least tropical storm force winds, because it is going to maintain that tropical storm status as it moves through central Mississippi. You're going to be dealing with the saturated grounds, the strong winds, and that could topple the trees. So that'll lead to some power outages. And depending on exactly where you are at in central Mississippi, you could be dealing with a tornado threat as well, even with some of the outer bands that first make their way through today and then into the overnight hours. So I'll kind of start the future radar over. So it looks like we're going to see that, that first kind of band move through central Mississippi as we go into the evening hours tonight, and can't rule out some isolated tornadoes with that as well. And then as we go through the morning morning hours tomorrow and midday hours on Monday, that's when you're going to probably experience some of the strongest sustained winds, as well as some of the heaviest rainfall. And after that, tomorrow afternoon, those conditions will be improving for you. But I think the tropical storm force winds certainly possible for you between 40 and maybe 60 mile per hour sustained for a brief period of time.
Coming up here next, folks, on Tracking the Tropics, we have Jack Royer joining us here, everybody, with a live report from New Orleans. If you're watching on an app or website right now for one of our television stations here in the Nexstar Media Group, we're going to be back here live on this player here in just a short amount of time. We're taking a brief break. We've been live here exactly 90 minutes since our original stream here, the first stream here began. So we're going to be back here at about 12:20 Eastern, 11:20 Central Time here as we reassess where our camera feeds are, our crews that are on the ground there in coastal Louisiana, coastal Mississippi. We're going to kind of reallocate our resources to bring you the very latest as to what's going on with Ida, as Ida's landfall now imminent here, sometime likely in the next 60 or so minutes, perhaps in the next special advisory that comes down from the National Hurricane Center, perhaps as early as 12:30 or even 1 o'clock here, as far as the center of that eye moving ashore there over the land of coastal Louisiana. So Dave Nussbaum joining us here, everybody, from WIAT CBS 42 in Birmingham, Alabama, Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly. We're not going anywhere here, folks. For those of you joining us here on Facebook Live, we're going to be ending this stream here for just a short amount of time, starting a new one on whatever Facebook page you're joining us on. We'll be taking more of your questions here in the next Facebook Live stream. Again, if you're joining us on an app or on a website, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here, folks, on Tracking the Tropics.